Sarah Shannon, July 2nd, 2025. I did a very detailed, very long written response to article number, I believe, 3 or 4 to module 2, but it's not there. I just checked it 3 o'clock in the morning, woke up, just checking, scrolling for my grades, and it's not there, so I'm going to do this real quick video in response to the assignment. And so the assignment was History of Federal and National STEM Education Improvement Efforts in response to that particular article that we're supposed to read in Chapter 3 of Module 2 of this particular article. So basically, to sum this up, the article was talking about a timeline of events that have happened over the many several years in response to the government and very important agencies such as the Education and Secondary Education Act, as well as the Foundation of Science, as well as other acts that have been passed by the government and by many leaders in society that are responsible for governing and ensuring that our students receive the foundation and education that they need so that future is prepared for their future careers and for our young generation are adequately educated so that they can carry the baton of the next generation when they grow up and take over our positions as teachers and doctors and scientists and engineers as far as the STEM focus this particular article was talking about, but in general, just educationally being adequately prepared and stuff like that. So it's talking about a timeline of events that happened with the Sputnik, going from there to a nation at risk, which is very, very important, and then talking about how that happened from 1958 to a certain period of time, and then a nation at risk, no child left behind, which happened under the Bush administration, and then from there to every student succeeds, which happens, I believe, under the Obama administration around that time, and then talking about from that point into where we are right now. So all these innovative acts that have been passed by these leaders that are attempting to try to deal with this very serious issue of our nation being at risk for not being educated and adequately prepared to be able to be the future leaders of tomorrow so that we can sustain our society in an equitable and a appropriate manner. And so basically these programs have been in place, and they're talking about some of the aspects and attributes of these programs, what they including special education, for example, and the innovations that have happened in that area, talking about making sure the needs of special education students are met and that they have teacher education and the teachers are educated in these programs and what is required to be able to adequately prepare our students for these future and the objectives that the students need to learn. And then there was a push recently in many years in several of these programs for objective aligned instruction. So now the teachers have an outline or a rubric, so to speak, of objectives that they're supposed to teach in the class of their students and adequately prepare their students based on those required standards and those required objectives. And then they have a rubric to be able to assessment that they give the students at the end of the year that they're implementing with many of these programs that have been set. To make sure that and to hold the teachers accountable for making sure the children have mastered these objectives and with the No Child Left Behind Act and with all these programs that have been in place to ensure that the teachers are actually teaching the children what they need, the children are doing well and succeeding and making advances or not staying stagnant, and then reflecting upon and then looking at the results and then deciding from there what needs to happen next and how these goals are going and how they are helping the students grow and how we're succeeding. Basically, give ourselves a report card of what are we doing and how are we growing in for the education. So the takeaway I got from these articles was that, yeah, this is wonderful. These government leaders that are putting these ideas in place, they spend hours and hours and hours and millions of dollars on trying to deal with the nation in crisis, similar to the Sputnik nation in crisis that was in 1958 that started. You know what I'm saying? So this problem is something that is very important and very prevalent for educators to be able to continue to deal with and to ask ourselves these hard questions on how can we make sure that our students are adequately prepared for their future so they can be the future leaders and take over society in the future. And I have recently, as an educator throughout the years, I'm familiar with many of these programs that have been put in place, similar to the Nation at Risk and then all the other ones, the No Child Left Behind Act and Every Student Succeeds and all the other ones that have been in place through the Science Foundation and all the other implications of the special education and all the other objectives. And so, as an educator myself, I've been taught through my teacher education programs. Talk about the importance of teacher education. I've been taught how it's important to teach the standards and how you should have a an outline or a objective that you're focusing on at every single lesson that you teach, and then you have to reflect upon whether students were able to master that particular objective focus. I've been taught that as an educator. I think that's very important. However, I do think that you have to be aware, sort of some of the focus of the Every Student Succeeds Act. I think that's a little bit more adequate instead of the No Child Left Behind Act, because every child is not going to have the ability to be able to grow at every No Child Left Behind. Not that you can make sure that no child is left behind by making sure that you adequately prepare all of our children at whatever their level they are to reach their greatest potential. And everybody's not going to be at the same level, so you have to make sure that you meet every single student's need, like children that are in special education services or children that are gifted or whatever level they are, and meet them at their level and then help them reach their greatest potential, whatever that may be. So that's important to level it out. So you have a standard. You have to be willing to diversify and differentiate that standard to meet the needs of every single student that you have, based on using research-based strategies to assist you in doing that, multi-response strategies, and all the strategies that go along with that. So I'm out of time here, but just to sum it up, so I think you have to consider that as well. And so that's my responses, and I think that we're doing great. Let's continue to move forward and see what we can do as a country to deal with, even right now, the crisis that we're having in the field of education. We've come a long way, but we definitely have gone backwards.